Thank you. I'm waiting for the IT cue. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday, June 21st meeting. We are actually live in Town Council chambers, and if you will please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. We're going to move on to public comment, and this portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. And I don't see anyone who would like to comment, so we will move on to appointments and resignations. Councilor Duff, do you have anything?
We do not.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Sharmat?
None to report.
Okay, great. Moving on to approval of the minutes, A, budget workshop from May 6, 2021.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the budget workshop, May 6th, 2021.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Budget workshop, May 11th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget workshop minutes from May 11th, 2021.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And moving to the town council meeting minutes from June 7th, 2021.
Make a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes from June 7th, 2021.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports, we will begin with finance, and we have Councilor Levine zoomed in remotely. Oh, is this you actually?
I'll make the report for finance.
Okay.
The finance committee meeting was canceled for June. Our next meeting will be July 15th at 6 p.m.
Okay, now we'll go to Councilor Levine for government ops.
We have not had a government operations meeting since the last town council meeting, but our next one is scheduled for Tuesday, July 6th, due to the Independence Day holiday.
Thank you. Moving on to public safety.
We did meet earlier this evening, and I can report that with the fire department incidents that they responded to of 52, bringing the year-to-date total 257 incidences responded to. They do feel, the chief made a comment to us that he felt up over 10% busier in the number of incidents that he's responding to this year. And they are weighted towards Route 91, and he's actually had several long-duration events, which are very taxing to the department. Just under 300 hours of training, 2 firefighter injuries, bringing the year-to-date total of injuries of 4. He's happy to report that 100% of the air packs have been hydrostatic tested. The townwide GPS mapping of the hydrant has been completed, and we are lucky enough to have replaced the state at a take-back policy for the PFAS chemical, and so we're 100% free of PFAS in the department. There are 6 new members for the year, which is a force of 75 with 64 active, and they will be embarking on a recruitment program. They're meeting with Newington to strategize. As for the police department, calls for service in May, 3,103, criminal arrests 21, motor vehicle accidents 40, DUIs 4, infractions issued 38, warnings issued 168. It was noted that there were 35 thefts from cars, not car thefts, cars being broken into, and so it is still a problem of unlocked vehicles, keys in vehicles, that type of thing. So we ask folks to keep locking your cars, if you can remember. And so it was kind of a uptick in the month of May for motor vehicle activity. The mayor and I did do a video on the speed measuring camera that gets posted around town. that camera stays in location for about 28 days, and they move it to different hot spots around town. And it does help, although we did notice several cars passing us at 60 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone while beeping at us, so. There are 2 vacancies in the department, but they are filled. The 2 new officers are about ready to take those vacancies over. Ambulance had 334 calls in May, bringing a year-to-date total of 1,811 incidents. There are 78 members with 2 new applicants in process, and Emergency Management reported that they have instituted the new CT Alert effective June 1st. So a new emergency warning system, and residents can download that from the website. And that's it. Our next meeting will be July 19th at 5:30.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to senior liaison.
Senior Liaison has not met since our last council meeting. This evening, it was agreed upon that we'll be canceling the June meeting, which was scheduled for Monday. We will be holding our July meeting in person, and that meeting will start the planning for the opening kickoff of the new senior community center, community senior center, whichever the right way is.
Thank you. Moving on to land acquisition and farmland preservation.
No meeting, but we are set to meet tomorrow at our regularly scheduled time of 6 p.m. So tomorrow, the 2nd at 6 p.m.
Okay. Liaison to the state representative and the state senator.
No report?
School liaison.
No meeting, no report, Madam Mayor.
Capital Improvements Committee.
Also, no meeting, no report.
People are going to think we don't do anything. Moving to Economic Development Subcommittee.
And once again, no meeting, no report.
All right. Moving now to consent agenda. Nothing there. And so we will go to old business. A, discussion, possible action, community senior center.
Thank you. The community center, quite a bit of work is now being done on the outside. The site work is being done daily. They're pouring sidewalks associated with the walking paths for the community center, as well as getting ready to pave the parking areas as well. The work has been completed for the mechanical, electric, and plumbing. All the HVAC equipment has been started, and some of the units are running efficiently. They're going to do the air and water balancing next month. The audio-visual wiring and infrastructure has been completed. Most of the interior walls and masonry work is being almost completed. Windows and doors are being finalized. Flooring and casework is being installed. And then starting in October, they'll start installing the fitness equipment and the furniture. And that's it.
Thank you.
John, could you just clear, was that October they're going to start installing furniture?
No, August.
August, okay.
Sometime beginning, middle of August.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Moving on to new business. A, discussion, possible action, 2021-2022 town budget, town council budget cuts or additions. Sarah.
Start with the resolution. So I'd like to make a motion for the following budget cuts and additions. I'll read the account number, the department, and the dollar amount. First, we'll start with the additions. Account number 5326, the town council budget, increase in fees by $5,000. Account number 5111, town manager, full-time, an addition of $80,000. Account number 5734, capital improvements, town road improvement reserve, $100,000. And the following deletions. Account number 5625, highway road maintenance, salt and pretreatment, $25,000. Account 5210, employee benefits, group insurance, a decrease of $100,000. Account number 5230, employee benefits, employee pension, a decrease of $500,000. Account number 5232, employee benefits, OPEB contribution, a decrease of $25,000. Account number 5808, contingency reserves, contingency account, a decrease of $50,000. Account number 5722, capital improvements, Straska Farm improvements, a decrease of $125,000. Account number 5744, capital improvement, Parks Grounds improvement, a decrease of $50,000. Account number 5745, capital improvements, Community Senior Center Reserve, a decrease of $50,000. Account number 5720, capital improvements, building improvements, schools, a decrease of $100,000. Account number 5721, capital improvements, Board of Education, minor repairs, a decrease of $200,000.
Alan, I just think the first one, you wanted to be an increase of $6,000,
Yes, did I say,
but you might have said 5.
oh,
just to
$6,000.
clarify. Okay.
Clarify, yes.
Okay. Did you make that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And discussion. So, before we start chit-chatting, I just want to take a minute to say how thankful we are as a council to Town Manager John Mayer and to Mona, our treasurer, for all of the hard work that they have put into this. We only recently received notification that what the guidelines are with respect to the federal stimulus package, also known as the American Rescue Plan. So we all know that there's a big dollar amount tied to that. It is, of course, spread out over 2 years. But really what we could use that money for, that took a lot of work to figure out in the first instance, even though we had a little bit of criteria, a little bit of guidelines, that was continuously being updated. So I want to thank them both because they went through it with us with a fine-tooth comb, and we appreciate that. I also want to give a shout out to Councilor Jeff Levine. I know a few years ago he came up with a spreadsheet, and we sort of plug in our numbers into that spreadsheet, and it lets us play around with the mill rate. And so all of the counselors are able to do that, and that sort of helps us through our budget process. So I want to give him a shout out as well. So this was a unique budget year, and we are going to discuss it tonight, but I just want to give you a little bit of the highlights. Basically, the town manager's initial budget called for a 2.0 mill rate increase over the prior year. But it didn't include the American Rescue Plan funds because, again, we were waiting for that direction. And the final budget calls for using $1,175,000 in additional revenue that is not from property taxes, and budget cuts of $1,175,000 to bring the final mill rate down 1.5 mils from the proposed 2.0 mils. Now, we will be discussing that tonight. There may be some other opinions as to that, and maybe we will reach a different number, but just to give you an idea of where we are at this point. It also leaves us with approximately $1.4 million in a special revenue fund, which will help offset additional expenses related to COVID-19 and potentially assist things such as local businesses and nonprofits recovering from the impacts of the pandemic. And the driving forces, if you don't read our proposed budgets, the driving forces in this year's budget increase were debt service increasing of approximately $360,000, Board of Education increasing of $1,740,790, employee contractual increases of $352,000, But we will note that this is probably one of the smallest grand list increases since 2015. That's about as far as we looked back, but we were happy with that. And we did listen to your requests for us to do something about public safety, and particularly property crime, and included 2 new police officers as part of this year's budget. So again, we will have about, if we adopt this budget and pursuant to the resolutions, we will have money left over in our special revenue fund, which we will in the next few weeks discuss the possible uses for that. And then next year, we will receive approximately another $3 million to help again with our recovery. So, Councilor Greenspan, you made the motion, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just start that, one, I'd like to thank both John and Mona for their work on this, as well as everybody on the council. This year's particular budget, due to the governor's executive order, gave us a little bit longer time to ponder the budget. A lot of detail, a lot of information. And of course, the American Rescue Plan came out with almost $3 million, $2.9 million plus, that we really didn't get a lot of guidance until late in the process. So this year's budget incorporates approximately $1.4 million of that money within the current budget, and also leaves us a little bit more than $1.4 million for the council to figure out how to use out of that special revenue account. I think it's important that we figure out how to use that, one, to help grow our tax base, and also as an opportunity to help aid local businesses and nonprofits that may have been adversely affected by the pandemic and have not yet recovered or in the process of recovering. Of course, we have to figure out how to do that. That's going to be our task. We have incorporated a good bit into the budget. The Treasury guidance finally came out. It's become clearer, and it seems like smaller towns like Rocky Hill, under 50,000 in population, have a little bit more flexibility in the use of the budget. Also, I'll conclude with Rocky Hill is one of the few Board of Educations that actually went to school in the entire pandemic. We did have a remote model as well. And in doing so, the Board of Education did return a significant amount of savings back to us this year because of programs that they couldn't have, some buses, after-school activities, athletic programs. And I just don't know what next year looks like. Everybody would like to believe we're past the curve, and I too would really like to believe it, but I don't know what next year's school model looks like, especially when those 12 and under still haven't been able to be vaccinated. So I'm cautious as we move forward, cautiously optimistic, I'd like to say, as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. And I will just turn to Councilor Prakash as the second motion maker.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Greenspan. I'm cautiously optimistic too. We all are, I think. That's what we need to be in this situation we are coming out of, hopefully, right now and going forward. Thank you, Town Manager, John Mayer, and Mona for your support in this putting together this budget. And I just want to start by saying that budgets are choices, and budget reflect our values. And budgets reflect our priorities, right? So it's a choice which should reflect our values and priorities. And I think this budget is a choice that reflects the value and the priorities of our fellow Rocky Hills residents. And what are those guiding values? Number one, protect the taxpayer from unreasonable and unnecessary tax increases while we plan for our future. Number two, providing high-quality town services for our residents. That is always a big goal, right? Ensure long-term fiscal responsibility and stability while we do that. And that includes funding our current debt, but not ballooning that debt anymore, hopefully, right? So those are the guiding principles, really, right? And if those guiding principles and values sound familiar, That is because these are the same guiding values that the mayor laid out last year, and we worked off of. So, as a matter of fact, I should take this opportunity to call this out a little bit because I think it's worth calling out. It was the first time in a long time last year that we were able to reduce our general government spending while maintaining essential services. And John Murphy, if you can put that chart up just for a moment, if you will. Thank you.
Not one to be outdone.
So I just went back to like 2016, 2017. I could have gone further back. I don't know how far back where I have to find a decrease. Now, some people will say it's a 0.1 decrease, 0.1 percentage decrease, to be precise. Well, at worst, it's a flat, right? So when did we achieve that last? I don't know. John Mayer is the expert probably here who can bring us back to that number when that was flat last. So I put that out there to put everything in context, right? Because last year also, you should remember that we had this huge debt obligation to take care of as well, which was like about 70% of our, give or take, I think between 65 and 70%, if I'm not wrong, of our mill rate increase. So that puts it in perspective, right? Now, having said that, having set the table for the last year's budget, that bring me to like this year's budget and talk about like the next fiscal year, and how that budget reflects our priorities and the priorities of our residents. So number one, this current budget for the next fiscal year that we are proposing increases the public safety effort by creating a full-time director of emergency management position. Now, if COVID has told us anything, if we have learned anything from COVID, is that we can't wait for an emergency to like come to our doorstep to have an emergency director. This town deserves an emergency director, and we are putting him in the budget. Number two, in light of increase of these property crimes in general, and general vehicle thefts last year that we saw, and other public safety issues which came with that, right? This budget provides money to hire 2 new police officers. That is in the budget, right? Again, we can't wait. We can't be behind on this. We need to be in front of this situation. So, number 3, the budget protects free bulky waste pickup, free use of transfer station, and other programming from Parks and Rec, which we have come to expect and rely on. Number 4, this budget allows us to move forward with the Senior Community Center project and do it responsibly with other CIP projects within the budget, as opposed to borrowing money, which I talked about in the beginning. This budget also provides money for milling and paving roads this summer, and save money or allocate money for projects like these, which should be in the budget, and we shouldn't have to go for a referendum for these kind of like regular expected expenses. So this budget takes care of that as well. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not mention that this budget funds our schools at levels that will help us maintain our strategic advantage as a town. So, Madam Mayor, in essence, for all those reasons, I strongly support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Thoreau, I'm going to call on you, but I don't anticipate that you have a slideshow like Professor Prakash, because he literally is a professor, and we get really excited when he presents this way.
I'm going to defer to Councilor Manuel initially, and I'm going to speak after.
Oh, of course. Councilor Manuel.
Well, I'm glad to say that
Your mic.
I'm glad to say I like the majority of the budget. But there are a few things that I need clarification on, or transparency, at least for the public. So the town manager, full-time position for $80,000, that's for the emergency management director position. I think the last we had a conversation about that was when we had a presentation, we had asked, a couple of months ago, we had a presentation, and we had asked for further information on surrounding towns, towns that are similar to our size, what they do. I've been in public safety. I know public safety. I don't feel that currently we warrant a full-time position. And this isn't just laying the groundwork for allocating $80,000 for a position just as a placeholder. It's approving a position whether or not it's filled and taking it away from a potential tax reduction. So there's just not a way I can support a full-time emergency management director position. I am in favor of additional overtime when it's needed, because we know that emergencies ebb and flow throughout the year, whether it's weather-related or accident-related. But this just hasn't been vetted enough, and it hasn't been vetted through public safety. In terms of the tax increase consequences, right now, this proposal is at 34.1 for a mill rate. And I think with some additional recommendations, we could certainly get it down to 34 even. As I had stated a year ago, when we had a 1.1% or 1.1 mill rate increase, it could have been lower. What we're seeing today, especially people on fixed incomes, with their increased utilities, increased gas prices, increased insurance, increased groceries, increased construction. So there's a lot of increases. We can't look at this as a standalone, well, this is just a tax increase that people will accept. I think we need to do as much as we can to propose and approve a streamlined basic budget without these other add-ons like a EMD. The other reason why I've always supported a lower mill rate is because of the surrounding town competition. So when corporations and small businesses look at towns to move to, one of the things they look at, and residents, is the mill rate. We're very fortunate when we look at Wethersfield at 42, at Glastonbury at almost 37, Newington at 39.3, and we're at 33.6 right now. People are going to look at that and hopefully have Rocky Hill at tops on their list. I just want to make one correction that last year there was a police officer proposed early in the budget process, and it was ultimately removed. So that's why there's 2 in the proposal this year. And the other thing I just want to outline is Councilor Prakash had mentioned is, as we move along with the debt, the debt payments are increasing, and that's not factoring in that over the next 10 years, the Board of Ed is going to need, over the next 5 years, the Board of Ed is going to need about $10 million for renovations to their facilities. So cuts to their CIP is basically kicking the can down the road. I think if we go along and look at a lower mill rate, to give us a little more room, because in 2 years, the American Rescue Plan, the money we get from that is going to be gone. We are also fortunate this year to have some increased funding from the state. Who knows what's going to happen in a couple of years. They could say it's going to be flat, or we need to reduce your funding by a couple $100,000. So instead of going in with some of the luxuries that we see in this budget, it's better to approach it long-term and think that we're going to have increased debt payments because of the referendums. We're not going to have the rescue funds in a couple of years. So it's not really advantageous until we get more facts on this emergency management position to add another position to the budget. One thing that I think after the discussions, I do want to make a friendly motion to make an additional cut to the Board of Ed, but I'll wait until after the comments. And those are my comments.
Thank you. We will move to Councilor Molero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief on my comments. A lot was said already through the counselors previous, and again, thank you for town manager and finance to help us get through this. Yeah, this has been a unique year, but my one point that I wanted to bring to the table really is, you don't want to lose sight of the fact around prioritization. I think anything that's new that we have to assess, we should assess clearly through any justified business cases or justified assessment processes, making sure that it's truly tied within what we want to align towards future goals, future vision. But also too is continuously examining what we have in our pipeline and making sure that it is giving us a proper run rates or proper efficiencies based on how it's being delivered. So something around governing prioritization is really a very important factor, especially feeding into operational efficiencies going forward as well too. So that's my comment. I do strongly agree with the budget and how it's laid out at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Thoreau, are you ready?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I have to agree with Counselor Emanuel on the $80,000 expenditure. My regulatory background, if there's not sufficient evidence to determine that something is prudent, we didn't support it. And we didn't get the information that we requested on what other towns are doing and so forth. So to me, they haven't proven that at this time that expenditure is prudent, and if it's not prudent, it's not reasonable to expect the taxpayers to pay for it. I too would like to see, as we did last year, we would have been happier with a lower budget than was approved, and I think we can do a little bit better than the 34.1. I do want to thank the town manager and our treasurer for all the work that they've done. Finance, it was a lot of work, and we appreciate all that you've done, but I have a hard time with approving something that I don't consider as prudent at this time. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's see. I just have my chart. Deputy Mayor Sharma?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I fully support this resolution intact the way it is. I don't want to repeat a lot that was said by Councilor Prakash and Councilor Greenspan. I totally agree with their comments. But I will say, and I will keep sounding the alarm regarding our debt load. It did increase by almost $400,000, $389,927, and certainly isn't going to go away anytime soon. And so we do have to, as a council going forward in the future, just be careful on what we're sending to referendum and what we're trying to bond and what we want to buy for the residents of the town. So I continue to point out that one small thing. I think it's amazing that Mona did run many calculations, and the state provided the town with mock formulas so that you could try to begin to spend down the CARES Act money. And so there's more that's going to happen with that money, and unfortunately may have to be in next year's budget, not this year's budget. So I think strong efforts are being made to spend that money. We want to encumber all of that money that we can for the residents. We don't want to see it being turned back. So I assure you that between staff and the council members here that are intimately involved in the budget line items are looking at that money in ways to capture it for the town in meaningful ways. I think Councilor Greenspan mentioned building our tax base. If there's some way for us to help with build our tax base, that would be huge. And then certainly the nonprofits that service our community. I wholeheartedly agree. With regards to the emergency management director, I have to say as chairman of that committee and seeing it firsthand, the pandemic hit our organization, our operation in so many ways and opened our eyes to so many different important things that we have to do. Our health district was front and center. And one of the things that we learned is that we need a quarterback. I mean, our chief public safety officer is our town manager, John Mayer. He's also our finance director, and and all the other hats that he wears, and at this time. And so, having a point person who, by the way, is already there doing these functions. He's already annually completing by law our emergency management documents, and it's getting increasingly difficult for him to straddle between his job at the police department and provide this valuable function as emergency management director. So during the pandemic and during all the craziness, he was able to organize emergency operations committee meetings. So the full Public Safety Council doesn't meet on the operations committee, the emergency operations committee. That's limited to just the chiefs getting on there, going quickly, and moving through it. The mayor and I did attend all of those and observing, listening, and being educated as to what was going on and if we were in a safe place. And I'll tell you what, just knowing that our chiefs had that personal protection equipment every month, or actually once a week, at some points twice a week, having these meetings, knowing that they had the equipment to be able to go out and service the town was critical. Now, those chiefs can't do the job of an emergency management director, right? They're busy running their ship, making sure that their crew is safe. So the emergency management director is a quarterback. And I do think we need that quarterback who is really already there and performing these functions, because by law, we do perform these functions. So I'm in favor of that. I've seen it firsthand, and as a matter of fact, for the first time ever, I think we built emergency management reports into our public safety committee meetings, and they're there permanently. They have a permanent seat at the public safety, so more of this can come out at the public safety meeting, and he's been doing that for quite a while now. So I just don't want to see us not have the opportunity to have this position build out a little bit stronger and do what it's there designed to do, because we don't know what the next pandemic is, and we do have variants that are coming down the pike, and it just became a very, very, very important function during the crisis, and I don't really see it letting up all that much. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilor Duff.
Sure. Thank you, and I'll echo other councilors who have shown their appreciation for the work put in by town staff, John, Mona, and others, our department heads. A lot of these meetings have taken place in public, but there's also a lot that people don't see. Late night emails, our counselors working together in small groups, because if more than a quorum attends, it becomes a public meeting. So I know a number of us were chatting in smaller legal groups over on Father's Day yesterday. We had some really stirring conversations. So there's a group effort, and I do think that it's worth noting that in a budget that's almost $90 million, we are pretty close. I mean, what we're talking about here, it's substantial that it impacts the taxes people pay, and every bit helps, especially when you're closer on the edges. But we agree on far more than the areas that we disagree. As I recall, the last time we talked about the emergency management director position, it was more about making sure that we had someone who's assigned to do those tasks. Right now, it seems like the challenge is that the person who has that has other things to do on their plate. And I think that's a very valid concern, that we need to make sure someone has the time to do that. Where I have concerns about is funding a new full-time position, because as we've been talking about, when you look at the budget, especially the first draft, a lot of this stuff can't move. Our salaries are obligated, our debt obligations are already there. So we can really nibble around the edges. One of the ways that we can make an impact to help future councils down the road is making sure that we're very efficient with how we're growing our staff. And my concern about having a director level is that Right now, we have this at 80,000. I don't know if that's someone who's making 50,000 plus benefits. That seems kind of low for someone with a director position. The question can grow. We now have a new, essentially, a department head, and a future council could say, well, that person needs, more people in that position. We might be setting the stage for kind of growing our government here at the local level when we really want to be modeling efficiency. I mean, other counselors have said that this is already being done by someone, which is not ideal, but the work's already being done part-time, and it doesn't cost us that much. And I'm less concerned about the number this year than how that might grow over time. One of the things I think that we did find during the pandemic was that the health district model really works well. And that's a collaboration between multiple towns. Some towns are big enough to have their own health department or their own health district, and we are entering a collaboration. So I would be more interested to see, is that something that we could leverage off of to perhaps throw in other towns, help be that model of regionalization of the smaller scale? That might be something that is less expensive this year, and also moving forward where it becomes more of a concern. The salaries only grow over time, the positions tend to grow over time, and this is something that we might be able to, through some judicious pruning, save future costs down the road. The other piece that I would add is that if we were looking to get down to a mill rate, the Board of Ed has been very good running their budget the last couple of years. We have gotten funds returned. We might be able to make a lower threshold estimate on maybe capturing some of those returns up front in the budget that would get us closer down to 30 to 34 even. I think we can probably discuss those ideas in greater detail, but that would help ease the pain for the folks who are either making less or seeing their costs go up, and give it an even more tighter budget for this year than for moving forward. But I do appreciate the work everybody's putting in, and I do think we are pretty close. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Levine?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate everybody's comments, and of course, thank you to John Maramona and the fellow council members for all the work that's been done. As Councilman Duff stated, there is a lot of background work that goes into this, much more, probably multiples of time versus what the public sees in the workshop. So kudos to everybody. I'm glad to see that we're fairly close. I do feel this is a really good budget. It's a good compromise while still maintaining the services and the Board of Education levels that we can do without a really mammoth increase. While we all hate to have an increase, there are certain things that are worth paying for, and we're happy to say that the increase is minor compared to what it could have been. I feel this is responsible not only as a budget for today, but for our future, for proper planning, for various things, as others have said. So I'm going to talk a little about the emergency management position. Look, the fact of the matter is we had the state of Kennedy come in and give a presentation specifically on this topic, and they were pretty adamant about the fact that we should probably have one. They weren't very wishy-washy about it. It was pretty specific that a town of our size should have one. Now, I think something to keep in mind is, maybe a bit of a short memory. This isn't just about COVID having this management position. People forget about the power outage we had for a week or more not that long ago before COVID, or some of the winter storms we've had, or heat waves or cold snaps where people don't have power, can't have heat. There have been other issues where such a position would be instrumental besides having a pandemic. And so this isn't just a one-trick pony type of position, and I think it would be important to have. The other thing to keep in perspective, if you put this in strictly dollars and cents, with this $80,000 we're adding for this position, the market value, if your house has $300,000 market value, you're paying an extra $7 a year, 58 cents a month to have this position. So if we save a person's life because of this position, or if we make a number of people's lives better or not as bad because of a situation, it's an easy decision to make to spend as little money as it's costing per household. Lastly, regarding the Board of Education, we looked hard at Board of Ed, and we did make some to it, but there is still a lot of uncertainty. I think, as Councilor Greenspan said, with COVID and the vaccination rates for the younger children. So, and that coinciding with what Councilman Duff said, that they've been good about providing excess funds back to us so they don't spend it, and with uncertainties that I wouldn't really be in favor of touching that any further. I think it's a prudent budget. There's been a lot of work, again, behind the scenes to do this, a lot of testing, a lot of modeling, and I think it's the best compromise for all involved. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've hit everyone, yeah. Let me just speak briefly. I do appreciate.
Actually, Madam Mayor, before you speak, I just wanted to, I know you like to finish after everyone speaks. I just have an
No,
additional
go
comment.
on.
Just because there's just one other thing I wanted to kind of discuss, and Councilor Levine really, I wasn't expecting that example of per household for that EMD positions. I think that was a spot-on example. But there was also some comments about, yes, this wasn't just about COVID, and they weren't just busy because of that, and there was an electrical power failure and all that stuff. This is a role that emergencies ebb and flow, and we have to think about, does it warrant a 40-hour position 52 weeks a year? And as of the information that I have, the information that I've been hearing at Public Safety Committee meetings, it doesn't. And if we are, as a council, are in a position to have a reduced mill rate or a smaller increase, whether it's 0.1 or more, then we should take that opportunity. 2 years ago, we were discussing at a similar meeting when we were finalizing the budget. It was a 0.1 increase, just a 0.1, and that was on the backs of a reval. I just want to read, and Ed, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I echo what you said 2 years ago, and I just want to read so that everybody is aware of what you had said.
Is the
Because
200,000?
I'm sorry?
Is this the 200,000 for teacher
Yeah, because,
pension?
yeah. So it's just a brief paragraph. Deputy Mayor O'Sullivan asked the town council members if there was any discussion. Councilor Charmet said that he thought the department heads did a great job, and it was just amazing that when Mayor Kohanek had called for a flat budget, that the department heads came in the way they did. Councilor Charmet mentioned that it was an amazing set of budget hearings. He said, however, he is disappointed that they didn't go flat or find that 1/10 reduction. He mentioned that they know that the revaluation fell the hardest on the fixed income people in town, and it fell hard on the modest homeowner. They are all saying that they will have a $400, $500, $600 increase, and he said that they are now probably pushing $700, $800 increases on their tax bills due to the 1/10 of a mil increase. He mentioned that this is small, and it is an achievement. He said that he appreciates the process and it was just tough, but he still thinks that they could have reached that flat number. He mentioned that he just wanted to put this on record. And for the final vote, at the time, Councilor Charmet was the only dissenting vote on that. But that was in regards to a 1/10 of a mil. And I feel I'm in the same position when we're talking about 34.1 versus 34, when we could probably, when we have an opportunity to cut like we did last year, and we didn't, without impacting services or education or public safety, that we should take the opportunity to do so. And I don't want to remind my colleagues here that when you're sitting at this table, sometimes it's a responsibility to make tough decisions. And when it comes to budget time, it's tough. It's a tough decision-making process. So I'm still against the EMD position, and I'd like to make a friendly motion to reduce the Board of Ed regular budget, not the CIP, by an additional $200,000. And the reason I propose that is they've consistently come with money back to the town. Dr. Zito runs his shop very efficiently. I have confidence that they can get by with an additional $200,000 less. So I'd like to put that as a friendly amendment.
I'll second
Okay.
the amendment.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. First of all, my concern with making an additional cut to the Board of Education is the unknowns, right? We just don't know what next year is going to look like, what our startup costs are going to be, what protocols will be in place. When I worked on the numbers for the Board of Education, I reached out to the chair of the Board of Education, Brian Dillon, and discussed these cuts. These were numbers that they were comfortable with, that they could live with, that would work, and I made sure I vetted them before putting a number in. I'm not sure if that additional 200,000 has been vetted with them or is a number that we just think they could live with. This year, hopefully everything goes back to normal. We have after-school activities, we have sports, we have summer school programs. Those are the items that allowed for them to return money this year within our budget. They too have fixed costs. They work independently of us, so I'm not comfortable making a change in this particular year to that line item within the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to respond briefly, is I appreciate the recall on that budget process, because I probably, I would love to have a flat budget, a flat mill rate, I really would, or to even possibly decrease it, but we are constricted by contractual obligations and debt load, and that continues to go, and we have to be mindful of that. Board of Ed, they didn't close, and they are one of the reasons why we have such a great community and people do move here. That's why our property values are going up, and that's why our house prices are all rising at this juncture. So I know how hard Alan and Jeff and the mayor pressed Board of Ed. I mean, they really, really pressed them. And even last year, it was amazing the amount of money that came back. It was in excess of $800,000 to the budget. So I know that they will always, I have faith that they will shepherd that money, that budget money, and steward it properly, and we won't be in a shortfall situation. I know that if they have it, they will return it, and those are my only comments back to you. I would love to cut the budget as well, but cut the mill rate down. But I think this is a prudent budget.
I would also like to add, Madam Mayor, really quickly, and going back to what I said earlier, right? These budgets do reflect a certain amount of prioritization, right, on our part, this body's part, right? And I want everybody to remember, people who are watching us from home, that the proposed budget here was a 2 mill rate increase, right? And we are at a 0.5. Now we are talking about another 1/10 of a mill decrease, which in bigger scheme of things, if you take that baseline of 2 and go down to 0.5, I understand that's another 1/10 of a mill is a big deal for a lot of people in this town. But you have to put that against the things we cherish in this town, like a school system which continually exceeds expectations, and the resources that we put behind that school system for it to succeed, right? So again, I'll just go back to where I started this conversation, is I think this budget, or any budget, has to reflect our values and priorities, and there are choices to be made. And this is the best choice we could have come up with all the expert advice of our fellow councilors here, Councilor Greenspan and Councilor Levine, who have worked really hard on this budget, and I really trust their judgment from a fiscal standpoint, professional standpoint, in bringing those priorities to life with these choices. So again, Councilor Emanuel, thank you for the amendment, but that's how I see it. I do see it from a baseline perspective of 2 mill rate increase going down to 0.5.
That happens every year. I mean, there's a decrease in the proposal. That's why we have to work at it. But the bottom line is, looking at the mill rate as it stands right now in this proposal, 34.1, we have an opportunity to make it 34. We're not taking money away from the Board of Ed. We're not reducing their operating budget. We're reducing their additional ask. So when there shouldn't be any scare tactics like they're not going to get by in the next fiscal year because of a $200,000 additional cut. They're still getting their additional increase that they've asked for, less $200,000. That's all. So I just want people to bear in mind that, there's an opportunity, just like there was last year, to reduce it, because over the next couple of years, we're going to see 35, 36, 37, and we're going to be in the same conversation as Weathersfield, Newington, and Glastonbury. So what would be an incentive to come to Rocky Hill when the mill rate's not that low? That's my argument, that's all.
I do think, to Councilor Greenspan's concern, there are unknowns. I mean, we are hearing about new variants of COVID, so I don't think we can assume that we're out of the woods. I do think that were we to see another lockdown situation, we would probably see another increase of federal funding. Now, that's speculation on top of speculation, I know. But we've seen, the government, state and local, have been, pretty responsive. And we also have at least another tranche of money. At least we expect to get tranche 2 coming. I think they could likely fill, a shortfall would one come to pass. And I know the board has been very good about returning money at the end of the year. And I don't want to. I don't want this to be anti-Board of Ed or anti what they do. The challenge is that that's maintaining the existing budget. It's not like when that money comes back, your taxes go down. They go up every year. And what we're hoping, of course, is to have corresponding growth on the grand list side. But in a tough grand list year, I do think it's reasonable to have another smaller cut to that budget, which is $48.2 million, an increase of 1.1 over last year. Of course, a lot of that's pre-negotiated salaries. But there is potentially room to increase the efficiencies, especially if we do see a lockdown with fewer resources being used while continuing to have an excellent school system. I do think that is something where we can take a look at, because every, the tenth of a mills, they do add up, especially if we're thinking about things down the road, like paying our road money out of the, instead of going out to referendum. Suddenly we're even with a lot of those neighboring towns. And it's not going to be because of this tenth of a mill, but it's going to be the accumulation of every of these, tenth of a mill that go by and get added every year. So that's the challenge. It's something that I think we could get by with that, while continuing to fund our values and getting, delivering an excellent product. And I do think that if we had some sort of, third wave now of COVID backsliding situation, we would probably be made whole through other revenue streams like we saw, in recent history.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
can you see me? I don't know how this is working.
Yes, we can.
And I hope to be there in person next time, but duty called today. So, no, I appreciate the comments. I guess I just think that, we had all these referendums to incur all this debt, which quite frankly, shot our mill rate up quite a bit. Yeah, we're talking about $200,000 to take away from the Board of Ed without any specific reasons or what would be cut. I mean, I haven't heard okay, if we're going to cut $200,000, what programs are you willing to cut with that $200,000, or what teachers or what faculty are you willing to remove? So it's kind of just an arbitrary number because it's about a tenth of a mill, but we really don't know what the real cost of that is. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot, as we've said, there's a lot of questions. We don't know if it's remote. Right now, the plan is not to be remote, but things can change. The hope is that there's more after-school programs, which will reinstate those costs that they saved this year. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny. We're talking about $200,000 for our kids when we were ready to take on all this debt for these other projects over the last few years, and by multiples increase our mill rate as a result of that. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons grand list didn't go up is because of COVID. And when the grand list doesn't go up, but we still have contractual obligations for debt and for MDC and for garbage disposal and for salaries, contracted increases, unless, it's just a matter of mathematics how this works. And the fact that we're able to get this increase as small as it is a good thing. And I think it's as good as we're going to get, and without really making significant sacrifices. So I would just move forward as is.
Okay. All right, I'll just comment very quickly. I think I hear your concern about, a tenth of a mill every year going up. But, you know, that sort of presupposes that every other town around us is staying flat, you know, year after year, and I don't think that's going to happen. And where we are now is we are incredibly competitive with respect to our surrounding towns. And I appreciate there's opportunity to reduce, but there's always opportunity to reduce. And with this particular line item comes an opportunity to expose our schools to quite a bit of vulnerability. And I'm not comfortable doing that, especially during a pandemic. So I'm going to call for a vote at this time. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Point of order, I think we have to vote on the amendment first and then.
Friendly
The friendly amendment, that's what I mean. Did you move for the friendly amendment? So all in favor of adding the friendly amendment? Okay. Three, okay. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Any abstaining?
Opposed.
Okay, all right.
3-6.
Okay, so the motion for the friendly amendment will fail.
Our TV stars voted against it.
Thank you, TV stars. Okay, I think we can just sort of wind up now. I just want to say I appreciate all of the counselors' opinions, all of their hard work and their efforts. It's been a very unique and challenging year, and God willing, next year this time will be better. Let me just touch base very quickly on emergency management, because I don't want the taxpayers to think that this is just some type of cavalier decision. I don't think that any of us sitting at this bench is qualified to make a determination with respect to emergency management needs, which is specifically why we had the state come in and make a presentation. We heard from Region 3 Coordinator, we heard from the State Director of Homeland Security that Rocky Hill does in fact have enough work for a full-time emergency management position. We also heard that it's a position that should not be regionalized, and that it is important for the health and safety of our community. So I do support having that position added, and my concern is that if we do not add it to this budget, that we're losing another year. And we don't need to wait for an emergency to happen in order to respond effectively. So let's move now to closed discussion on this particular resolution, and we will take a vote. So all in favor of the 2021-2022 town budget, town council budget cuts or addition? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? You calling it, John?
I didn't see the TV stars. I think it's 7-2.
It is, 7-2. Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on, new business, item B, discussion possible action 2021-2022 town budget use of American Rescue Plan proceeds.
And bear with me,
And we're just gonna get our papers organized.
I'm out of order.
Do we need the one before that first about the mill rate?
I think we went the other way in the,
We have amended agendas.
yeah.
No,
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
agenda is different than the handout.
Okay, I'm
Before
sorry.
you can approve the mill rate, you need sort of to authorize use of the ARP money.
That wasn't in the new handout.
So it's,
There we go.
Yeah, I see that now.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to authorize the use of the American Rescue Plan proceeds. Be it resolved that the Rocky Hill Town Council authorizes the town manager to use $1,407,416 of proceeds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 and the Town of Rocky Hill 2021-2022 annual budget.
Second?
Okay, discussion?
I was just gonna let everyone know early before the mayor's town manager's report that we are getting our money in tomorrow, the $2.9 million.
Great.
You got notice from OPM.
Talk about timing. Wonderful, thank you. All right, no discussion, then we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, no abstentions. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item C, discussion, possible action, adoption of 2021-2022 town budget, and to set the mill rate.
All right, bear with me as I struggle through the legalese.
Yeah, take your time.
Adoption, make a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 annual budget. Be it resolved that for the fiscal year 2021-2022, general fund budget dated June 21st, 2021, as itemized by department, board, committee, commission, and other purpose, and providing for expenditures in the amount of $88,656,902, with $4,205,761 for the Board of Education, $8,041,425 for debt retirement, and $32,409,716 for other departments, boards, committees, commissions, and other purposes of the Town of Rocky Hill, be and hereby is adopted pursuant to Section 806 of the Town Charter. Be it further resolved that for fiscal year 2021-2022, tax levy for the Town of Rocky Hill shall be established in the amount of $75,730,906, and the tax rate upon the grand list of October 1, 2020 shall be $34.1 per $1,000 of taxable value. Be it further resolved that tax bills in the following amounts shall be due in one installment on July 1, 2021. Real estate tax bills for $300 or less, all motor vehicle tax bills, personal property tax bills of $500 or less. Be it further resolved that all other tax bills shall be due in 2 equal installments, payable without interest and/or penalty on July 1st, 2021 and January 1st, 2022. Be it further resolved that all motor vehicle and personal property tax bills in the amount of $2 and under are hereby waived. Be it further resolved that the town manager is hereby authorized to secure bids for items approved in the budget, subject to the provisions of the charter. Be it further resolved that the Capital Improvement Program 2021-2022 through 2024-2025 be and hereby is adopted pursuant to Section 802 and 806 of the Town Charter. Be it further resolved that the Capital Improvement Program 2021-2022 through 2024-2025 is a forecast of capital expenditures and may be modified to meet changes in priorities that occur within the community over time.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, sorry. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Drink of water?
I do need a drink.
Can you repeat that for me?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
2 opposed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, any opposed? Okay, and no abstentions. Okay, thank you. All right, and moving on to item D, discussion, possible action, approval, Town Hall Supervisory Bargaining Unit, MEIU Local Number 506, SEIU, AFL-CIO, CLC 2021 successor contract.
This contract was brought to the town council a few weeks ago, with the union recently approving it last week. There is an executive session set up if need be, but the contract did not change since the last meeting and so on, so we're just looking for approval tonight of the new contract, which was settled pretty quickly with the MEIU group.
For clarification, John, would we be able to vote on it now before executive session if we wanted to?
Yes. You have copies in your
Yep.
packets and so on.
I'll make a motion to approve the MEIU Local 506, SEIU, AFL-CIO, CLC 2021 successor contract.
Second.
Okay, discussion? No discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, no one abstaining. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item E, discussion, possible action, approval, town manager contract.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to table that item till after the executive session.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're zooming along now. I have a super short mayor's report. First, I want to congratulate all of the Rocky Hill High School graduates and their families. The ceremony took place at the Yard Goat Stadium in Hartford. It was a super hot Sunday, but I don't think any of the students even noticed. There was a parade that was held later in the evening. It was an absolute blast, and then the students went off to celebrate project graduation. The high school looked amazing, and I just want to give a shout out to all of the parents and the volunteers who made graduation evening a safe event for our students. And congratulations again. And speaking of Sunday, happy Father's Day to all of the proud papas out there. Our first farmers market of the season is going to be next Wednesday, 6/23 at Ferry Park from 4 to 7 p.m.
That's this Wednesday.
This Wednesday. This Wednesday. It is this Wednesday, 6/23 at Ferry Park.
The month is going quick.
From 4 to, Rita's gonna kill me because I saw her today and she's like, Rita, I'm so sorry, it's this Wednesday. So come out, Parks and Rec has a few promotions going on where you can receive this really cool, beautiful insulated grocery bag. I was going to give you a COVID update, but the numbers are super, super low. And I want to say when I looked at the computer tonight, the positivity rate was at 0.4%. So a big shout out to everyone in the community. Thank you so much for doing your part. And I hope that you're out and contemplating the vaccine because that'll get us going and staying strong much longer. Very quickly on the Brownfield grants, we anticipate hearing from DEEP by the end of the month whether we are going to be awarded any money for the cleanup of both Ames and Straska Farms, so stay tuned for that. Any money that might be awarded for Ames would pass directly to our potential developer pursuant to state law. And any money awarded to the farm would come directly to us. So as if you've been following, we know that we expect the remaining testing, remediation, demolition, and site planning to be in excess of $850,000, which makes seeking this funding a priority because we don't want to have an additional burden on our taxpayers having already borrowed $7.2 million. We want to hope that we can get those costs done with grant money. And then, speaking of which, trash and recycling is always an issue. So DEEP is hoping to have some grant money soon to award to municipalities to begin pilot programs. And so Councilor Thoreau and I, as you know, are part of that coalition and working group. So we're going to be looking into that. One of the things I hope to suggest we can do is maybe a curbside trash pickup pilot program. We'll have to see where the money is. If that's something we could do for free, we should look into doing our part with respect to trash and recycling, especially as Mira is closing, and we need to start looking at our options soon. And that's it. So finally, there is going to be a letter that will be going home to everyone that explains everything that we discussed tonight relative to the budget. And that concludes my report. We will move on to the town manager's report.
Now that a adopted budget has been adopted and a mill rate has been set, Mona will start updating the budget book. And the mayor will start writing her mayor's letter to go into our tax bills that are going to be sent out to our contractor in the next couple of days.
I started it.
That. So people should hopefully be getting their tax bills around July 1st if things run smoothly. Good. And now that the budget has been adopted, we're going to start working on our bonding issue of about $11.6 million. We're working on our presentation to the rating agency call, which is scheduled for next Monday, the 28th. Generally, between Mona, Ray, and myself, we put together, with the help of our financial advisor, a nice package to review with the rating agency to show how well Rocky Hill is doing. So the rating agency call is next Monday, the 28th. We're also working on an official statement in order to send out to the investment community that would hopefully be interested in buying Rocky Hill bonds. That is scheduled, the sale is scheduled for July 14th. Hopefully we'll get a few low bidders that will bring the interest rate in, hopefully under 2% for 20 years. And then the deal would close on the 28th of July. The streetscape is pretty much completed as far as electrical work, sidewalks, the brick edging, planting, and the paving. Next week, they're going to work on some decorative crosswalks, as well as hopefully getting in the bus shelters that are currently being fabricated in Michigan, and they were delayed due to COVID. Excuse me. I mentioned that. Ray sent me an article saying that a technology company called AdNet Technologies is moving their operations to 400 Capitol Boulevard, hopefully by starting July 1st. And they're also starting a new cybersecurity firm within their organization called Mach Blue. So that building that's been vacant for a while looks like it's getting a technology company coming in very soon. And I told you that the American Recovery Act money is coming in tomorrow for $2.9 million. And Elmridge Pool will be opening up on Friday, the 25th. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to, next item, executive session.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to enter executive session with the town manager concerning the employment contract for a public officer or...
Excuse me, Alan, you should also mention attorney. I forgot
Okay.
to put that. I gave you the wrong copies.
with the town manager and attorney Rich Roberts concerning the employment contract for a public officer or employee pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-200 6A.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.